What's going on? It's the Rap Nerd, and I'm here today to talk about a Clipse article that dropped from GQ a few days ago. If you don't know, the Clipse are back with a new album that's releasing in July called Let God Sort Them Out. They released their first single called Ace Trumpets, which I did a reaction to, and thank y'all out there for supporting that. It's getting major numbers, and it's helping my channel out a lot. Despite not even having the audio in the video, copyright said, nah, you're not posting this, but yet people still support it. So thank y'all for supporting the breakdown. But anyway, we're here to talk about the article. Of course, there have been a lot of things that have come out of this article and a lot of people have spoken about, which I am going to get to, but there's one main thing in this article that I really want to start with, right? So I got it pulled up, and this is talking about Chains and Whips, which really is the song of conversation in all of the controversy because it has a Kendrick Lamar verse on it. But Pharrell had it playing at a show, was it last year or 2023? And he was addressing Jim Jones in his verse, Pusha, that is. You know, Jim Jones was on like a tour of just saying Pusha doesn't deserve to be in the top 50, which I felt was crazy. And I even covered that myself. I was like, Jim, you of all people don't have any room to talk about anybody being in the top 50. I don't even think Jim is in the top 200 to be real, and let alone to have that debate with Push, who I think is clearly a better MC with better records, better music, and better everything overall. So that was blasphemy in my opinion. And here Push talks about, you know, what spawned him responding, you know, because again, Jim was going multiple places talking about this. So Push's response is saying, yo, this dude must really want me to know how he feels of me. So my verse was how I really feel of him. Every line is true to heart. I just love how Push really stands on business about anything he does. He's a solid individual, doesn't back down at all. So for him to say, like, this is what I think about you since you want to talk about me, which goes more into the fact of him saying, you think there'll be honor amongst veterans, you know. But that's what he says. So in this article, there's a few things. So next in the article, which is something that I don't think I've seen anyone speak about, you keep scrolling down, right? Read this passage. If you listen closely elsewhere on the album, you'll find at least one other instance of Pusha letting another rapper know what he really thinks about them, sounding as menacing yet unbothered as ever. Now I'm wondering, who is that about? I've been really like jogging my memory of like who has Push had a lot of back and forths with. He already addressed Young Thug with him saying this thing about like he don't respect what Push did, and he already said like, look, when it comes to me, you're not somebody who I look to gatekeep anything. Drake, he obviously is not talking about because he said his name, you know, clear as day. And I really don't know who this is because everybody that he's had problems with, he's come out to say it. So I want to open the comments up to who do you think this other person that he's talking about. Like he says, he's telling them what he really thinks about them, and not a name comes to mind. And I'm pretty sure once we hear it, we'll know, of course, because I think he doesn't hold his tongue, and a lot like Kendrick, he doesn't hold his tongue. And I think that's what makes these two collaborate so well, right? But I cannot for the life of me think of somebody that might have said something about Push or might be poking the bear with Push, who he would say, and maybe it's something that he and his person see eye to eye, but I'm very interested in that. So I just wanted to put that out there first. Who do y'all think that is? Now next, all the other stuff in the interview is stuff that's been spoken about before, but I just want to give my 2 cents, right? First thing, so Chains and Whips, UMG, you know, pretty much allowing Push to buy his way out of the deal for him and the Clipse based on the fact that he has a song with Kendrick and it looks like 2 artists teaming up against Drake. Now this is, man, where I don't try to be, you know, spiteful or bash anybody, but shit like this is really making me think that Drake is one of the worst things to happen to hip hop, honestly, because he is doing so many things that just are unwriting rules of rap that have always been there and making it okay. You know, From a style standpoint, which is I'm not going to get into that because that's a bit different. Everybody looks at art differently. But what I don't like is the retooling. First of all, he got caught with a writer, and people were just like, "Yeah, he got caught a writer," but I mean, he makes good music. It's just like, okay, we're gonna say that. All right. I know personally, I haven't looked at him the same since that time, and there are other people who feel the same way. So that's one of them. But the second thing, right, with all of these, behind the scenes antics of scaring companies into doing what he wants, aka blackballing artists, right? That's been something that people with power have always been doing. I was listening to the Joe Budden podcast, and Ice made a point of, this is what 50 was doing. When he was beefing with D Block on I Run New York, 50 says, one more thing out your yap, I push style shit back. And Jadakiss responded to that on the G's Up freestyle when he says, he got me a little jammed up right now. I can't lie, but I don't know who told his black ass he can't die. So he's admittedly saying that 50 is making shit hard for him, right? Paused. There are other people who've done it too. Jay's been also said to have been blackballing people, which I can see why. But that's part of beefing and why you're supposed to only go at certain people because you know that they have a power to do certain things. So if it was just that, or hell, I'll give you one better. Even in 2018 when he was doing that stuff, because, Push and Steve go way back. Steven Victor is his manager, about all of the things that have happened since he's dissed Drake. And I'm like, that's just part of beefing, and I won't have a problem with that. This is what niggas do. But the issue with all of this is, and what separates him from just using his power to blackball, is the fact that he sued over a diss that he not only egged on, but was a part of, saying other things where defamation could also play against his part. You know what I mean? Like, you, in your disses, you were convincing another person of being a domestic abuser. That's not something that's small, right? It's not a better life than what you're getting, what you were getting, accusations made about, yourself. So it's like, for him to get in a battle rap and lose, and in a sense call the damn cops on the situation, makes all of this shit just terrible for rap. I just think that is a trash move, man. And then we've gotten to this point of suing over disses. Like, I think that is some bitch shit, for lack of better terms, and trying to be negative, but that's just a part that goes into killing of the art. And the last thing I wanted to get into and talk about with this article is his relationship with Kanye, and I'm just really happy to hear him say that, because over these years of Kanye wilding, I could see that in not only his body language, his facial expression, but in all of the interviews back in the span of 4 years when he dropped those albums. So with Daytona and It's Almost Dry, every time he had an interview, somebody would ask him about Kanye, and I could tell that he was being fake because he didn't want to say what he really wanted to say. So for him to admit it here, I was like, I fucking knew it. There's no way that a guy like Push could be cool with all of the stuff that Kanye has been saying. And again, what's funny is, before even cutting his camera on, but I spent a few hours just listening to a lot of the conversations that he had during the press tour, and he was saying all of the same things that he's saying here, but of course with some extra sauce at the end of it, especially because of what Kanye said. What I know about Push, right, which is why I'm wondering who he's taking aim at about how he feels, about a real rapper, is Push only says something when the rock is thrown at him. But for the most part, he just kind of is like, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm gonna be cool. I can hold these things back and not say anything because I know about who you are. So I feel like this is only coming because, again, Kanye being on a rant and talking shit about any and everybody has got him to this point. So, but anyway, in those interviews, Push kept saying, like, I don't agree with what he's saying. And we've spoken about it before. But I tell him how I feel, and what he's doing isn't what I think is the best way to do it. I remember specifically Push said, put it in the music, don't talk about it. This is how you feel, rap about it. sing about it. Don't say it. And he even says in other interviews that they've gone back and forth and have disagreements about a lot of stuff. So for him to be here, I'm like, yeah. And before he even got here, the fact that he walked away from being president of Good Music told me all I needed to know. I was like, yeah, if Push is done with this guy, it is what it is. So let me go into this excerpt that he said, because I think that is really great in such a scathing and classy way to talk about somebody. We made some great shit, bro. We did. Pusha acknowledges, but let me tell you something. He's a genius, and his intuition is even more genius level, right? But that's why me and him don't get along, because he sees through my fakeness with him. He knows I don't think he's a man. He knows it. And that's why we can't build with each other anymore. That's why me and him don't click, because he knows what I really, really think of him. He showed me the weakest side of him, and he knows how I think of weak people. God damn. He said he knows I don't think he's a man. Forget the weak people thing. He knows I don't think he's a man. That sounds like that came straight from the brains of real men, because I've thought that about him this entire time. Like, no real man would say no shit that you're saying, or talk the way you talk, or lead the way, you know, you say things. There's a lot of niggas online who I feel like that with. I'm like, yo, you ain't a real man, bro. Like, all of these dudes disparaging black women and saying this about women and having these gender wars, y'all not real men, bro. Like, I'm gonna just say that with it, you know, like it is. But that's a whole different tangent. But for him to say that just shows how in the dirt Kanye really is, and how many bridges he's burnt, you know, by himself. Because Push was the one guy who was trying to hold on to the relationship and keep it what it is, and even he had to jump ship. So I just thought that was a very scathing way to cut ties, especially after somebody was slandering you. This is a great way to be like, oh, word, that's what you want to say? Here's that rock you threw back. Boulder. This was entertaining. I cannot wait for this album. It has been a very slow year for hip-hop this year, so if we only get one banger, I'm happy to get this. Oh, and of course, I think Jid's album is going to be a banger. If you have not read the article, it's on GQ right now, and there's a whole lot of other nuggets in there from Malice as well, but I'm just covering Push because he's been the one that's active and had the things that I wanted to speak about. So again, who do you think that he's talking about in this other verse of a song? I'm genuinely lost about that. And of course, if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, thank you. And until next time, peace.
Rap Nerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy. Instead of banking on it, now rapping is just a hobby.